welcome back to another episode of D2D Success Stories. Here today with Jeff Mendez. Welcome, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. So, um, me and you, we actually just met for real right now, but
So let me interject. What's crazy is with social media
yeah,
and with Zooms and everything, sometimes I don't even know if I've met the individual in person
yeah,
or if it's only in a virtual circumstance.
Yeah.
That's just the power of today's technology,
right,
which
right,
is
right.
crazy.
Yeah, you feel like you know a person, you know what they're doing and some stuff.
Well, and then you post these stories and everything, and then you start having a conversation. Oh, yeah, back in January when you went to this place, you're like, did we talk about that?
Did we talk or did you just see that?
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy times.
Yeah. So I'll intro you just a touch. So had a big long career at Vivint, a little bit of Atlas marketing before that. Finished up as executive VP of sales.
Yep.
At Vivint, and went through a bunch of stuff that we'll talk about on the pod. And then since then, been doing a bunch of what you call it, private equity.
Yeah, private equity specifically in real estate.
Real estate. Yep. And then coming up on 10,000 doors.
Yep, 10,000 doors.
Studio
168. Yep.
Yep, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, cool. So that's a pretty, if you're listening, you probably are aware who Jeff is, but that's a pretty big intro. We'll go back to the beginning, though. So tell us just kind of a little bit about growing up, where you're from, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm 49 now.
Okay.
I'll be 50 in January of next year. So I had my birthday already this year. Originally from Puerto Rico, from San Juan.
Okay.
My wife is from Argentina.
Nice.
I moved to the States when I was 18. She moved to the States when she was 19.
Yeah.
We met at college. We met at BYU.
Uh-huh.
And we've been married for, how long have we been married now? 26 years.
Yeah, that's big.
We've been married. And we've got 5 kids. Our oldest is 24. Then we have a 22. Then we have a 20. Then we have an 18. And then a 12-year-old.
Nice.
So busy household, essentially 4 already out of the house.
Yeah.
And then we have our little 7th grader, and he keeps us he keeps us happy.
Yeah.
That we're still parents that can kind of
Still doing stuff.
say, hey, don't do this, don't do that. The rest, they're out of the house. They're doing their own thing. They're adults. So
Yeah.
and then what else can I tell you? So I actually lived in the Dominican Republic for 5 years as well.
Okay.
So when I was 5 years old, my dad got a job transfer from PR to the DR.
Yeah.
And I was there from age 5 to 10.
Nice.
And then moved back to PR.
What did he do?
He was in pharmaceuticals, sales.
Nice.
So I come from a big sales background, if you will.
Cool.
Always came very naturally to me.
Yeah.
Leadership, management, recruiting, always very natural. Listening to his convos, going with him to his appointments.
Yeah.
Shadowing him, even when I was in 7th grade, 8th grade, et cetera. I remember that. And
Uh-huh.
It's always been there. It's part of my DNA.
Now, forgive me, I'm pretty ignorant about Puerto Rico. Do most people in Puerto Rico grow up very bilingual from the beginning?
It depends. Really good question.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of people, when as they're going there for the first time, assume that. And then once they get there, they realize it's not the case.
Uh-huh.
But if you're in the San Juan metro area, English is widely spoken.
Okay.
But as soon as you go into more of the outskirts, where actually my family's from, English is not spoken at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Puerto Rico, it's a commonwealth.
Yeah.
The official term, it's an associated republic.
Yes.
So we're not a state. We're not our own sovereign country, if you will.
Affiliated.
And some people may not like what I just said, but it is what it is. It's a modern day colony, for lack of a better term.
Right.
So its status is in limbo.
Yeah.
And something needs to happen there.
So you came to the continental U.S. at 18, already speaking great English.
Yeah. So my mom was actually from Texas.
Okay.
So I grew up in a dual culture household.
Yep.
So I had the Texas culture, which is a very proud culture.
Yeah.
And then the Puerto Rican culture, which is also a very proud culture.
Yeah.
So I grew up with both.
Yeah.
So our rule at our house was you have to speak English inside the home.
Okay.
So I could dominate the English language.
Yes.
And then we had to speak Spanish, obviously, outside the home.
Yeah.
And then if I ever used Spanglish, my mom and my dad would be like, I don't know what you just said. And then they would literally, I kid you not, make me look up the word in the dictionary if I didn't know the translation of either one of the 2 languages.
Yeah.
So very crisp in both. Like I can switch to Spanish right now, like nothing. And what we do at our home now is we speak Spanish at the house and then English outside of the house.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have a tough time enforcing that sometimes?
Very much so. My wife does not. I do. She does a really good job of only speaking Spanish to the kids.
Yeah.
I'm very weak at that.
You slip on that.
Yeah, because listen, I grew up with both. So for me, if somebody's better in one of the two, that's where I go naturally.
Yeah.
So if I hear like a gringo accent, I'm like, bro, no.
You make it easy.
Let's talk in English here.
Yeah.
And if I have somebody that dominates the Spanish language trying to speak to me in English, it kind of irks my ears.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing that I have, and then I just go to that language.
Yeah.
And then my wife, she speaks Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, English, and French.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and kind of what brought you here for college?
Just the American dream, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the youngest of four.
Okay.
There's a 8-year gap between the next closest sibling and me.
Yeah.
They all did BYU. I did BYU. It was kind of in the cards for us.
Yeah.
And this is what we did. I almost stayed in Puerto Rico and studied at university there, but decided to take the path that my siblings had taken. It's really what my parents wanted.
Yeah.
I was kind of going back and forth, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I came, to the States, and I love the state of Utah.
Yeah.
Major culture shock, obviously.
Right.
But I love it. And I actually like Utah more and more over time. I think Utah's getting cooler. There's so many cool things to do.
Yeah.
I think the people here are getting more and more diverse.
Totally.
So it's been a lot of fun to see how it's in my opinion, how it's progressed.
Yes, totally. And so you said 49, so this is 95 that you're coming here for college.
Yeah, 94.
Nice, dude.
I graduated in 94. So yeah, my first semester was finished in 95.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I served a mission for my church in Panama from 95 to 97.
Panama.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've always been in the Caribbean.
Yeah. Did you hit doors in Panama?
Oh yeah.
Street contact?
Oh, yeah.
Or both? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Loved it. Like I remember my last assignment, I'm sitting outside. I was probably going to go home in about a week, and I was like, I could do this the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I love knocking doors, love talking to people, love serving, just love pouring into, the community.
Yeah.
Like it was 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Loved it.
And the spiritual element is something special. I don't want to underrate it, but I'm always interested in the talking to people element for this podcast, obviously. Was it tough to get into houses?
No, so easy for me. Like a knack. I have a really good knack for reading people.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm really good at empathy. And empathy, my definition is understanding the other side's point of view.
Yeah.
And not trying to impose me on others, but it's to help extract what they're thinking, what they're believing, what they're feeling, what's important to them. And then I can build those bridges.
I always talk to people about this because I went to Peru. We would knock doors as well, but I don't know if I would say I got good at it. It was almost so easy. I didn't have to be good at it. It was more of an exercise in how bold can you get yourself to be.
I was so bold.
Yeah, just be rowdy. I mean, I would invite the taxis to be baptized in a 5-minute convo. I would see how crazy I could get myself to be.
Yeah. That was it. No, I loved it. Like zero worry about what other people thought of me. Just have the convo. Whatever happens, happens. I'll give you my best.
Yeah.
I learned from my church leader when I was on that mission. He said, if you don't talk to everybody, that means that you're showing pride.
Okay.
I remember I was on this bus ride, long bus ride to one of our conferences, 2-hour ride. And at the beginning of the conference, he asked, hey, who slept on the bus on the way here? We all raise our hands because we're always exhausted, right?
Yeah.
You're always in the sun. You're just tired. You're always given so much that the first moment you have to sit down or lie down, you're out.
You do it.
And he said, shame on you guys for sleeping. You should have been talking to the person next to you.
Wow.
If you didn't talk to the person next to you, you're such a prideful human. Show humility, and talk to everybody around you, because what you have is special, and give them your gifts.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
You took it from them.
And listen to me. I learned too to be bold but not overbearing. There's a big difference there.
Yeah.
So as long as you're bold and you're giving, go for it.
Yeah.
Don't be overbearing. Be bold.
Right.
Big difference.
Totally.
Same thing on the doors. So when I started at Atlas, and more so even Vivint, because at Atlas I was in the C-suite. Vivint, I was boots on the ground.
Okay.
It just came easily to me. Just being super bold, just helping people, because I felt I have a mission here. I know that you're going to be better off with me than without me.
Yeah.
And I believed in my value prop, like everything wholeheartedly, so people could feel that. They could
sold
see
on what
that.
you were doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, which
because
is
that's all
important.
a sales is. It's a transfer of energy, conviction, certainty from me to the other person.
Right.
So I just always made sure that whatever it is that I was presenting, I was 100% bought in.
Yeah.
You got to sell you first. So I was completely sold on the value prop.
Agreed. So you get home. Had you met your wife before your mission?
No.
No. Okay. Meet her after your mission.
Yep.
Do the engaged, married thing, all
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Did you start having kids quickly?
So what let me do the math. Like 3-4 years in,
Oh, okay.
I was managing Walmart stores. I don't
Yeah,
know if,
yeah.
I don't know if you ever heard that. So when I was going to school, I didn't know anybody that had knocked doors other than missions.
Right.
Like the pest control thing. I knew it was kind of out there, but it was few and far between.
Yeah.
Like nobody in my network, nobody in my friend group was knocking doors. But I would see it in like the school newspaper, them doing their little ads and stuff. Hey, come join us, make 20 grand in the summer, whatever.
Yeah.
Always intrigued me, but I didn't know anybody that was in that business.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Having your first
Walmart
kids.
and
And
stuff.
Walmart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're back. So I didn't have anybody in that industry,
Yeah.
and I was actually going to go to law school.
Okay.
And one day I get back home. We were married at the time. I get back home, and I'm just kind of defeated. I'm just tired. I'm ornery, whatever. And my wife's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I just got back from my LSAT prep course.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, it's just so much work, so tedious, so this dumb test, whatever." And she's like, "Let me ask you a question. Why do you want to be an attorney?" And I'm like, "The money."
To make good money.
The money.
Yeah.
And she goes like, "Is that it?" I'm like, "Honestly, yeah." She says, "You're not going to be an attorney then. We're not doing it. You need to quit right now. You need to quit that road right now. We're not doing it."
Smart.
If all you're chasing is the money, that's all that's going to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So right there, I pivoted. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I didn't go back to the prep courses. I didn't submit more applications to law school, whatever. And the next day, I literally went to the Career Services Center. I had interviews lined up with multiple companies. One of them I really wanted to have hire me. Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
Right? My dad being in the pharmaceutical industry, I knew that Eli Lilly was a juggernaut.
Yeah.
And they were offering the highest salary. I think back then it was like $80K a year, which is unheard of.
Starting. Yeah.
Crazy, and company car and 401k and all the cool things, right? When I was going to school, it was get a good education, go to college. I'm first generation college.
Yeah.
Go get a safe and secure job, and that's where you retire.
Right.
Right? So I was like, I better find something cool that can take me.
This day right now is important.
It's very important.
Yeah.
So I sit down to this interview. I kid you not, this Eli Lilly interviewer, it's this lady. She says, first question, have you ever done a summer knocking doors? And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Yeah. Have
She
you ever
wanted
done a
that.
summer knocking doors? I'm like, well, I did a mission. He says, yeah, I'm at BYU. Everybody else has. Like, but have you ever done, for instance, pest control?
Yeah.
I'm like, no. The next question she asked me is, well, why would I hire you versus your cohorts that have been doing pest control sales for the last 4 years and they have phenomenal sales skills
Right.
by going through all that? And I'm like, I'm fumbling. And lo and behold, she doesn't hire me. I was upset. I was pissed. I was sad.
Yeah.
That same day I was interviewed by Walmart. They literally gave me an offer right then and there. But what's crazy is I think it was $39K a year.
Yeah.
And I was doing telesales to put myself through school. When I got my first paycheck at Walmart being an assistant manager, it was less than what I was making working part-time doing telesales.
The career job you thought you wanted.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my goodness, how am I going to make things happen here? But obviously, you can move up in the company, get your own store, whatever, which we got to that point. But it was tough.
A grind.
So then now let me go back. So how do I get into door-to-door?
Yeah.
So I get a phone call. I'm managing one of my stores in Statesville, North Carolina. And one of my buddies calls me up and says, yo, Mendez, what are you up to? I'm like, well, just working, doing the grind, doing retail. You know how it is. In retail, you're working like 80 hours a week. Kid you not. Like half of your week is in the store.
Yep.
And he goes, well, my brother just started a company. And I'm like, well, I didn't know any entrepreneurs. It just didn't exist. Like
Yeah.
none of my buddies were building companies. They were just getting jobs like me. And I'm like, he built a company, and he's like 3 to 4 years younger than my roommate from college. And I'm like, well, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're knocking doors, selling Dish Network door to door. I'm like, here's this knocking doors thing again, just like coming back to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in my mind, Dish Network, great product, I have it. If somebody would have knocked on my door, I would have bought it from them. My wife literally called somebody to set us up. So if they would have come into my door, that would have been easier for me, and I would have said yes in an instant because I didn't want cable.
Yeah.
So I'm like thinking door-to-door, Mission, the pest control thing, Eli Lilly. I'm interested.
Yeah.
But how would I get paid? He said, you know, eat what you kill environment, blah, 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 but we can maybe figure some things out. I'm like, okay, cool. I said, I think I had a couple kids at the time. And you know, you're worried about putting food on the table. He goes, and he's smart. He goes, don't make a decision right now. Let's just chat. And I said, listen, I'm going to put a transfer in, move back to Utah, because I'm about done here with North Carolina, and then I'll holler at you. 3 months later, I call him up. Hey, I'm back in Utah. 2 weeks after that, I get a walkie-talkie call to the fitting room saying, Mr. Mendez, we have a shoplifter that we've apprehended. Please help us out.
Yeah.
I'm booking it over there. You know what I'm going to say next. It's my buddy messing with me.
Oh, that's
saying,
funny.
it's just me. There's no shoplifter here. Let's go grab some lunch. He's just shocking on me, you know. I'm like, okay, whatever. That was clever. Leave. We go to lunch. He's pitching me on the whole thing. Again, he says, don't buy it before you try it. Don't buy it before you try it. Let's go knock some doors on a Saturday. That's when everybody's home.
Yeah.
And if you like it, great. If not, at least you tried. You can come be this dumb Walmart manager thing. Anyway, we go to Scipio, Utah.
Yeah.
We knock the first door. We get inside. He botches it. He's terrible. My buddy is. Terrible presenter. Second one, same thing. Third one, the dude has DirecTV. We're pitching Dish. It's a takeover. The guy's about to close the door. I'm like, I can't take this. I'm gonna speak up. I say, sir, before you close the door, can I ask you a quick question? Boom, we're in the house.
Wow.
Boom, we get the deal done. I
Yeah.
slide the paperwork over. He fills it out. Puts his name on the sales rep line, by the way. We get outside, and he's like, so, you know how when you're shadowing, what'd you think? I'm like, yeah, you put your name on the sales rep line. That was my deal. What'd you do, bro?
Yeah.
He says, And he says, well, let's keep training. And I'm like, no, I'm done. You taught me everything I need to know. Now I know how to fill out the paperwork.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm putting my name on the sales rep line from here on out. So I took the other side of the street. He stayed on his. And then I said, whoever gets more deals before lunchtime gets lunch paid for. I sell 3. He sells 0. They all get same day. And he calls his brother and says, we got to do whatever it takes to get Mendez on board. And that's how I started door to door.
Nice.
Yeah, so my first role was literally VP of sales.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then we did
because it was tiny. You were essentially there at the
tiny, and then I could rip. So we would go out. We call them Burns weeks instead of Blitz weeks because we'd burn through the neighborhood, and there was nobody left standing. They all had Dish. We'd just torch it, and I would literally go out and sell 50, 60 in a week. Yeah, and the best reps were doing like 30.
Just destroy it. And
I would show people, hey, this is what's possible.
And you kind of made up a process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we started preseason, we started competitions,
but I mean, like
all that stuff.
A pitch,
and
rebuttals and all that.
Yeah, and I kept it really simple. And I just knew what to say, how to say it. It's just it's easy. It's simple. Yeah, like if you believe in what you're doing, it's that much more simple. Yep. Simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication, right?
So agreed. And you guys, was it a lot of that kind of semi-local blitzing type stuff early on, or?
No, so we needed to make payroll. So we decide, hey, the way we make money is by selling accounts, and then Dish pays us. So we're like, let's go blitz St. George. It's warm. Okay. In the winter months, it's tough to make payroll, right? Yeah. In the summer months, it's easy because you have all this volume coming through. Right. So we just said, let's take the corporate office and let's go bust it. And that's how preseason began. It was literally to make payroll. Gotcha. So we would go, it worked. We loved it. And then, we made it a thing, and then we started doing seasons. So I did a fall, a spring, and then a summer season. So for fall and spring, I'd go to Rexburg, literally knock doors, and go recruit the kids that were off the track that I wanted them to be a part of. Yeah. And then literally I'd go to the housing center and get maps of where all the dudes were, who was on what track. and I went directly to who my prospect was,
Yeah.
like recruiting them on the door.
Nice.
Yeah, and I did that. I did that for years.
Knock dorm doors or
Yep.
what?
Knock dorm doors.
And then if they want to see a deal, you can go hit.
Yeah.
Resi
So
doors
I would drive to Rexburg Tuesday morning early. Knock doors, push them to a recruiting meeting that night at Frontier Pies. We'd always buy like a TV or something to entice them to go with raffle tickets. I'd do the whole presentation. I said we do interviews the following day. So I would do my presentation Tuesday, interviews Wednesday. I put them on the doors Thursday, Friday.
Nice.
And then I'd come home.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're doing all these preseason kind of blitzy type things, but you're still doing a big summer program.
Big summer. Yeah. The preseason was just a stepping stone to get them to summer.
Totally.
But if they were going to school in the summer, then I'd put them in one of the 2 other seasons. But summer was always the winter.
Understood.
Summers were, I mean, everything happened in the summer.
Yeah.
And we'd crush. I mean, we're the largest retailer out there for Dish.
For Dish. Yeah. Because alarms wasn't happening in force at this point.
Not yet. I mean, we were starting to run into them, but not in a really big fashion.
Yeah.
They came on the scene around like 05, really.
Right.
05, 06.
Pest control had been around.
It had been around, but we never really ran into, if we ran into pest control battles, we'd usually win.
Yeah.
It just seemed to be funner, I mean, to do Dish, I guess. We had a really cool culture. I mean,
New product.
I mean, the names that were at Atlas were Casey Baugh, me, Doug Robinson, Luke Toon, Mark Toon, Ashton Buswell,
Yeah.
Reno Mendenhall,
I had Buswell on here like 3 weeks ago.
Mark Erskine.
He mentioned that his first doors were with you.
Yeah, with me. Yeah. I remember that in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And the first door with Casey Baugh was with me in Des Moines, Iowa.
Would you recruit pest control kids? Was that a thing?
All the above. We
Yeah.
recruit pest control. We recruit. I don't think we really got the alarm guys. They were kind of the evil empire.
Okay.
They made more
Yeah.
per account than we did. Probably like a 4x multiple on an
Okay.
account versus us.
Yeah.
I think we were paying our guys like $80 an account back then.
Right.
They were paying closer to $400.
Yeah.
But
Pest
yeah,
control was probably around that 80 though.
Book
right?
of Mormon or whatever you call it, the
Like living scriptures.
living scripture thing.
Yeah.
We recruited a lot of those dudes. We recruited guys that used to sell garbage services.
Yeah.
Yeah, just all the above, or guys that had never done the door-to-door thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. And how's the growth go? Kind of first year or two. 'Cause when you
Exponential,
started, it was
crazy.
just like
Yeah, I mean
$5
it
or
was
something,
It
right?
was nuts. I
Yeah.
mean, we went from maybe call it when I started 4 teams, then 8, and then 30, and the rest is history.
Is there a, I don't know, key W somewhere in there that kind of like, maybe you recruit some guy who has a huge downline or anything like that?
No, I think more than anything, what we learned at Atlas was just a philosophy of dollars follow value, not the other way around.
Okay.
So we were all about creating massive amounts of value for our customers, for our recruits, for our C-suite, for the end user, for everybody. And it was just, I mean, if you look at who's doing what today, it's still permeating. Like it was a really cool class of individuals.
Right.
But that was our juggernaut, is just those guiding principles that really drove us, helped us, etc. Now, Atlas, and I don't want to get into too many details, but it was going to a place where we could tell it wasn't going to be long lasting.
Right.
The ownership group was not really being a good fiduciary. They were depleting our balance sheet to go
Do other
create
stuff.
other companies.
Yep.
So they would deplete the cash cow. We're like, hey, this isn't how business is done, type of thing.
Right.
So then that's when all of us either went to Pinnacle Security
Yeah.
or to Apex, which is now Vivint.
Right. And how do you make that decision? Because I've heard some other people tell that story. It's super interesting, I think.
Man, and this would be another 3 podcast sessions, but let me try to do it. So long story short, the entire org ended up signing at Pinnacle.
Okay.
I mean, when I'm saying entire org, if I say 90%, that's probably lowballing it. We're all over there.
And just in case anybody listening doesn't understand, this is a lot of real door-to-door industry OGs at one little company. It's not the place to be anymore, and they got to decide if they're going to Pinnacle or the future Vivint.
Or we're out, or we just go do something else.
Something else,
Blue Ocean.
Yep.
So anyway, we all, part of the strategy was, hey, let's all stick together. Let's be one big happy family.
Right.
and we all sign. And I remember I was the last one. It was between, we almost all signed at Apex. Then it didn't work out with some of the people. And then, hey, we can all do the Pinnacle thing.
Yeah.
But long story short, I was the last one to sign. And I just felt sick inside. Like I felt terrible.
Okay.
Like I wanted to throw up.
Yeah.
Like upset stomach. Just my body was telling me something, right? So again, I go home. I'm actually wearing the Pinnacle hat at the time. And my wife goes, "You don't look right. Like, what's going on?" "Oh, I signed at Pinnacle." I'm like, "Why? You've been talking about Apex this entire time. You're saying that they're a better opportunity. You know, they have things that they're more dialed in, more systematic, that you'd perform better there." Like, "Yeah, the whole group." And then they offered us a much bigger signing bonus, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, "Here we go again. You and the money." Like, no, it doesn't work that way. You're a dumbass. And she said a few other select, words.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring up the hat is even when I put on the hat, I felt like this doesn't fit me. I feel like a nerd wearing this hat. Like I've sold my soul to the devil type of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I literally called Casey Ball because we're the closest out of the ones shopping between the two options. And
Closest friends or
closest friends, business associates, etc.
or closest on the fence of the Vivint.
And also that
too.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that introduced us to the Apex people was actually Kevin Swiss.
Okay.
Because he used to work at Apex before he joined Atlas.
Oh, interesting.
But long story short, I say Seba, he was in Logan, Utah at the time recruiting. I'm going, "Seba, I don't feel right." He's like, "Poppy, what are you talking about, bro?" I'm like, "Just doesn't make sense to me, man."
Yeah.
He goes, "No, you're just being a little pansy. Pull your panties up. Let's go. We're going to make this thing happen, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Casey, I'm telling you, brother, I can't do it. I can't do this thing." Just
to flesh it out, what are the kind of the deciding points? Like Pinnacle, it seems like, is offering you the most money, just the better
title,
deal. Title, money.
Office space.
Okay.
I think they were giving us a car stipend. I mean, just a lot. And the numbers were big.
Right.
Like, it's the yellow brick. Here you go. Yellow brick road. Like, here's everything you need.
Yeah. So y'all are.
Versus Apex was, I will cover your back end check. But you have to go build the rest on your own.
So at this point, you're what, 28 or 9 or something?
I'm 30. I'm 31 at the time.
31. Some
4
of these
kids.
other dudes are like 27, 28.
I've always been Poppy. I've always been the old guy.
The old one, yeah. But anyway, I mean, y'all have been in this game 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And do you mind saying what they were trying to roll out to you? Multiple hundreds of thousands, or
yeah,
what?
the number's way up there.
Yeah.
And then a tenth of that was what Apex was offering.
Okay.
And they would say, if you're good enough, you can build a team. If you're really good, you can become a regional, so forth and so on.
Okay.
Versus Pinnacle is like, I'll make you VP again.
Yeah.
Where you were, lateral move, let's go. Let's not take you down here. Let's put you exactly where you were. So,
So what were the allures to Apex's offer?
The feeling. That just, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like, I don't want to be here and then, if you don't have a strong foundation.
Yeah. You don't want the freebies.
I mean, it's short-lived.
Yeah.
It's like you can't prop yourself up for an extended period of time. Maybe you can do it for a year or two, but then you're going to get got. I didn't know alarms. We weren't in the business. Like, we had to learn a new trade.
Yeah.
You got to pay the price.
You didn't deserve to be an alarm VP.
I literally didn't deserve to be there.
Right.
Like, sure, you can say, "Oh no, my title at the previous company," but these are established companies.
Right.
Their guys had been fighting for years and years and years to get at the top. Why should I get that pass?
Yeah.
And it's, again, I signed. I was culpable.
Right.
And I didn't take any money. I didn't take a penny, nothing, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was there maybe less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, I mean, Apex said, if you're good enough, we'll cut. You can do all these things. They covered my back end check, which anybody would have done.
Right.
And the dollar amount was dismal, like just such a low number in comparison to what people pay today. And then literally just start selling accounts preseason, start building my team, did 1,800 accounts my first year, and then we went from there. But it was no handouts, no gifts, no nothing. You had to earn every single thing, and I'm so glad I did it that way.
And not everybody did it, right? Of that
No.
A lot of them still went to Pinnacle.
Yeah, a lot of them went to Pinnacle. They were there for 5 years, and then they joined us at Apex later on.
What would you say the proportion was? Like half and half? Or?
I'd say half and half.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Maybe even more went to Pinnacle.
Okay.
Could be.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, all of us that went to Apex, we knew we had made the right decision.
Yeah.
It was the road less traveled.
Right.
It was the tougher choice, but quite often if the road you're on is too easy, you're probably on the wrong road.
Right. So, yeah, talk about kind of scaling up from there because you're back in the trenches.
Yeah, so good lesson here. And this is what's crazy. A lot of people don't know all these stories because they're used to seeing the W's. They're used to seeing the trophies, the titles, and all that stuff.
Right.
And I posted this the other day. Everybody wants to win until they realize how many losses it takes to win. So it takes blood, sweat, tears, years, and it's not pretty. Mm-hmm. Like it's a hard, treacherous road, right?
Yep.
So anyway, I run my first summer, and I had asked them, at Vivint. I'm just going to call it Vivint so people don't get confused. It's Apex, but now Vivint.
Right.
I would ask, hey, how many accounts does it take for somebody to become immortal here? And they're like, 100 accounts. I'm like, I don't think that's accurate. I didn't say famous.
Yeah.
I said immortal.
Immortal.
And then they're like, immortal? And they think about it, and they're like, 300. I'm like, done. So I'd never sold an alarm before in my life.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to sell 300 then. I want to become immortal. Because I know that leadership is influence, nothing less, nothing more.
Uh-huh.
The reason you sell big volume, it's not for the paycheck. It's for the influence.
Uh-huh.
And so you can replicate yourself with others. So you can build teams. You can multiply.
You do a big summer or multiple. You go recruit a big team.
Well, you have a voice now. And the reason I'm on this show is because of that, right?
Yeah.
It echoes into,
and you
for
teach
lack
them
of...
to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds cliche, but what you do echoes into the eternities type of thing.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, I go out my first year. I did 50 preseason to get ready. I wanted enough reps in that I could go talk to, multiple types of avatars. I didn't want to just get really good at selling the young folks or the elderly or the wealthy neighborhoods or the middle. I wanted a wide array, so no matter where I get dropped off, I can produce.
Yeah.
So I did 50 preseason, which was unheard of. In fact, I tell Kenny Cox, he's a big name. I say, Kenny, I'm going to go on a preseason trip. He says, what's preseason? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then that's how preseason was born at Vivint. And I had to do preseason because I needed to put money in my pocket because I didn't get the sign-on bonus that Pinnacle was going to give me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get good. There's no way I could have started to learn the trade in April when the summer starts.
Right.
Because I'm training other guys, I'm building. I paid the price early so I could avoid that cost later. Mm-hmm. So we would literally go to Arizona and say the goal is 10, and we'd be there till we hit 10. We'd come back home, go back out, come back home, go back out. We'd knock in the dark in the morning just to learn the different times, learn how to do referrals, learn how to do takeovers, the whole nine. And then I went out. I did early start. I started first week of April, and I did 300 accounts, including my 50 preseason, so I could become immortal.
Yep.
That team, we did 1,800 accounts. I had Mark Erskine on there, Jeremy Long, Nick Hansen, Jordan Leishman, Jared Dyer, a bunch of well-known names in the industry. And it was not a fun experience for me at all. I didn't like it. They weren't bought into I didn't have a vision.
Okay.
I was, just so you know, I didn't say this. I was a one and done. I was like, I need to go get this back-end check paid because I worked too hard to not get it paid.
Yeah.
And then I'll go rip a summer, make some money, and then in the summer and stuff, I'll start figuring out what my next step is. I was a one and done.
Yeah.
I wasn't in it.
You're trying to land after the Atlas thing.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta, Casey was actually thinking about selling insurance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, let's go do another summer. Let's figure this thing out. So it wasn't until August that I had an aha moment.
Okay.
I'm sitting in my apartment in Missouri in Springfield, and I'm like, I could do this. And I was making well over $1 million at Atlas, by the way. And I'm like, I can do this. I can do this to a really big level. It's going to take a couple of years, but I can get back into those millions, and I can build something cool because, I said this, nobody's doing it the way that I'm used to doing it.
Yeah.
Nobody's recruiting the 30-somethings. Nobody's building the systems. Nobody's really doing preseason. People don't understand the tournaments. People don't know really how to make this a career. Most people like, hey, let me sign you for a summer, and there's no long-term vision.
Yeah.
And I had always taught my guys at Atlas, hey, have a 5-year plan. Because you always underestimate what you can do in 5 years, overestimate what you can do in 1 year. 1 year, you're paying the pipe. If you only do a year, you're paying the piper, and you're not materializing that sacrifice that you made year one. Year one, you're paying tuition. You start really making the money year 2, 3, 4, and so forth and so on. You start compounding. So
can I talk about something real quick too, or just ask you something? Something I talk about on this podcast quite a bit is basically not just treating door to door as a means to an end. You know, it's something you can stay in and make a good career out of. And I think it's probably become a little clearer to people over the past 2 decades. When I remember when I was younger, people definitely, there was probably a larger college job stigma than there is now. There's still some, but it's gotten a little better over the decades.
I think it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah. But you getting in for the first time at 26 or whenever,
26.
And
but again, I was in the C-suite because I'm like,
gotcha.
I'm not going to be in the summer like these guys.
Yeah.
So I was one of those culprits.
Gotcha. Yeah. But I mean, you just mentioned, recruiting 30-somethings and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. At age 31, I'm thinking, because some of the guys were saying, Mendez, get out of the way. You're too old for this thing. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you're kind of one of the OGs of.
I'm like, I'll prove you wrong.
I want to say old man door knocker, but it's not even old. That's the thing.
But it was back then.
You're right.
It's like Mendez is gonna knock. In fact, listen to this. I didn't say this, but the first time, the Atlas thing is happening, and then I go home one day and I tell my wife, hey, the Atlas thing's happening. And about a week later, I'm deciding I think I'm gonna go knock doors, and I say, hey, I think I'm gonna go do the summer.
Yeah.
Like I've been having these guys do. And she laughs. Her first reaction is, whatever, get out of here. Yeah. She didn't believe me. I had an MBA. I had, the accolades, the titles, all that stuff. Right. So she's laughing. And I go, no, I'm serious. And she goes, whoa, you are serious. And then, she turns serious. And then she's like, okay, how do we do this? Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be blinders on. It's going to be 24/7, 365 while we figure this thing out and build the platform. And she goes, I got you.
Was there any kind of barrier you had to kind of jump over in your head?
Oh, yeah. Listen, I had just barely moved into the Alpine Country Club.
Yeah, like the social circle doesn't think I'm supposed to be doing this.
Listen, again, MBA.
Yeah.
Walmart, you had status, Atlas, VP of sales, making $1 million a year, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm in my neighborhood, and it's doctors, attorneys, business owners, whatever. And I'm just moving in, and the Atlas thing happens. And I'm like, man, how am I going to
explain myself?
Like, am I this, I'm going to use the word loser door knocker.
Yeah.
But that didn't last very long in my head because I always create my own reality.
Yeah.
Right? I think everybody watching, listening does the same thing. But I'm like, no, I'm going to make this job such a cool job that people in this neighborhood, in this country club are going to want to do what I do.
Yeah.
These doctors, these attorneys, these business owners are going to wish they had my job. It may not be immediate, but watch. Mm-hmm. Literally, within the first year and a half, I had a bunch of people in my neighborhood approach me. Because again, whatever you create, that's what becomes reality. In fact, there's psychological studies that state that if you create things to such an extent, you don't even know if it's real or if it's your own creation.
Yeah.
Because your brain is so freaking powerful.
Yeah.
So anyway, I literally had people be like, Mendez, what is it that you do? Like, you're always on these cool trips. You're always hanging around these cool people. You're always at these cool events. You get to wear a hat all day. You get to wear a T-shirt to work and shorts. And it looks like you have all this time. And you get to travel to these cool places in the summer. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, there we go. So I was able to create that reality. And I just made it awesome. In fact, it got even crazier. But, being from Puerto Rico, there's two main things. Well, really one main thing that we all wanted to be growing up as a baseball player. Mm-hmm. So I actually told myself I play for the Yankees. And my season is the summer. And instead of being at bat, I'm on the doors. And I'll do my batting averages, whatever, and how many sales I get, whatever. And then all these old school movies, I remember the scenes where the baseball players, Lou Gehrig, whatever, they would call home on the payphone. Hey, honey, thanks for taking care of the kids. So I'm like, that'll be me calling home. Hey, thanks for taking care of the kids. The preseason, working out, the whole nine. And I'm literally walking around the streets in Arizona when I first started. I'm a Yankee ball player.
So, dude, so much of Vivint and a lot of the solar companies that are populated by Vivint guys, so much of their like branding and competition stuff is all like pro sport
Oh,
focused. Is that your brainchild?
I'm going to give credit to Kevin Swiss for that one.
Okay. Yeah. All of their
It's a very
smart home pros,
athlete,
blah, blah,
yep.
blah, all that stuff.
Yeah, we we're all, if you choose to do direct to home, you usually have that in your DNA. And we wanted to make sure that we brought the best out of that to the market.
Okay.
So we created pros. We created a very, unique opportunity for people to still play a sport at a really high level as a career without having to go, pro into that specific either basketball, baseball, etc.
Right.
But we felt like pros.
Yeah.
Like we worked out like pros, we ate like pros, we did cheers like pros. Our schedule is like, pro athletes. So, yeah.
Take it serious.
And then we do, when we do our conference and stuff, we did tons of, what do we call these? Like, combines.
Yes.
Where you're like pushing weights, tug of war, you're athletes.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So, you have that moment in St. Louis or Kansas City where you're like, I can do this?
Springfield, Missouri.
Springfield, Missouri. First
I can
summer.
do this.
Yeah.
First summer, August.
Okay.
And then that in August, I decided to do extension. So I decided I'm going to stay another month and
Gotcha.
get more cash flow.
Okay.
Oh, so let me get to this. So I had all these people on my team, and I say, yeah, I can do this, but they weren't bought into me. I wasn't really bought into them. I knew that if I got the team again the second year, it just didn't feel right.
Okay.
So now we go back to the saying of it's better to have a great team than it is to have a team of greats. And the best comparison is, the 2004 men's basketball team Olympics.
Yep.
They took bronze, and they had LeBron, they had D Wade, they had Carmelo.
Should have been great.
Yeah, I mean, Larry Brown is the head coach. They had a team of greats. They didn't have a great team. It was terrible.
Yep.
They thought they were too cool for school. Didn't have to really practice. They could just show up and win. AI was on the team. And then in 08, Redeem Team, Kobe comes in, Coach K, you have a great team.
Yep.
So I had a team of greats. I didn't have a great team.
Yep.
I had all-stars, but we weren't gelling.
Yep.
They weren't bought into me. I wasn't bought into them. We had like maybe 25 guys that finished the summer. And I said, you guys are all free agents. You can go wherever you want. No strings attached. I'm going to take Jordan Leishman. I'm going to take Jared Dyer.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Eric Pott and myself. We're going to build this. The following year, we went from 18, 20 some odd guys, 4 guys. We did 2,200 accounts. Kept the entire base. Year 3, we do 6,500 accounts. And then the following year, we do 10,000 plus. We had a satellite team that did 5,000. Satellite meaning a remote team.
Yeah.
I mean, we just cranked.
But
everybody was bought in.
What was the shared vision with those 3 you said?
Listen, it's the, for me, the definition, and we're all CEOs of our business, right? And if you don't consider yourself a CEO, you're gravely mistaken. You should probably start understanding that you're the CEO of your own life.
Yep.
And a CEO for me is you got to be the chief evangelist officer. You have 2 main jobs, culture creation and culture maintenance. Okay. And you promote what you tolerate. You're only going to be as good as the lowest behavior that you allow to permeate throughout your organization. So we had high stakes. Like we worked our tails off. It was a brotherhood and sisterhood that was really hard to, disrupt. Like you try to come in our house and try to, mess with us, you're not going to win. Like we're going to beat you type of thing. And then we wanted great quality, and then we did it for the long haul. So when I would sign guys, I said, you need to do this for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
It's not a 5-year contract. It's a 5-year mentality.
You're not trying to boil the frog. You're just telling them.
I'm saying, if you only do one and done, you're wasting your time. You're wasting my time.
Right.
Why would I train you? Why would I go through all this if you're a one and done? So when they're making a 5-year commitment, they're bought in.
Yeah.
They're really bought in. And then they can see the progression. It's like where there is no vision, the people perish. Yeah. So we all had a vision, and we went for it. Like we had big whys, and we had a beautiful platform. Our jobs all got installed. We all got paid, and it worked beautifully well.
Yeah.
So that's it. And
so,
we had a lot of fun doing it.
So those 3 that you mentioned, not to say anything about the others because it turned out successful in a lot of cases.
They're all awesome people.
Those 3 were believers of what
and I had
you're
this
doing?
conversation 2 days ago.
Yeah.
With a guy from one of the owners of another company. I said, listen, your company is not a one-stop shop for all. Like, everybody's different. Like, what works for if a recruit might do way better elsewhere. Like, don't take offense to that. Like,
Yeah.
there's no one unilateral or one absolute place where people can work.
Okay.
Like, you got to figure that out, and you got to be okay with that. You got to be okay with telling people, hey, it's not working out. You got to be okay with losing recruiting battles, because quite often those battles, you should be losing them.
Yeah.
Because they might hurt your org.
You weren't meant to work together.
Yeah, it's just like you're going to have either a brand ambassador or a brand terrorist. I want brand ambassadors. I want people that wake up in the morning, they're super stoked to be a part of the org. I don't have to drag you along. And then the next question, well, how do I know? You'll know. Like, leaders, we know. It's that intuition. Like, leadership, it's not a science. It's a liberal art. You have to feel it. Your gut has to tell you. Don't try to just fit everything into one, because it's not. You might do well for a season or two. In the long run, you're not going to do well. I could have taken that team year 2, and we might have done 2,200 accounts with that team.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't have done 6,500 accounts the third year with
Right.
that team.
Right,
There's just no way.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the lesson too. Sometimes it's you have to want a strong foundation more than you want
It's the foundation.
another 10% right now in
It's
the super
the
short
foundation.
term.
Again, I
Yeah.
took the foundation versus the paycheck
Yeah.
when I made the decision.
Yeah. That's awesome. So as we kind of get a little closer to the end here. So those are like the first 3 years, but you stayed at Vivint.
13 years actively.
Yeah.
And then if you count my non-compete where I was a consultant,
Yeah.
another 5 years. So 18 years
Yeah.
Total
So
at one company.
from years 3 to 13, there's a lot of growing as a leader. Org gets huge. You do the regional thing, the VP thing, all that stuff.
Yep.
What are kind of some underrated lessons, I guess?
Underrated lessons.
The stuff that people don't say on every podcast ever.
So a lesson, great question. A lesson that usually doesn't get talked about on podcast or shows. And maybe it's talked about a lot, but I think we do a disservice by not talking about the difficulty that we go through. I just think it's unfair. Like, and I say this all the time, like, Kobe Bryant, big hero, when he passed away, I'm sure you had the same reaction. It's like, wow, like there's an emptiness now in the universe. And I used to do conferences where I would ask people, hey, who would love to trade places with Kobe Bryant? 5 rings, Academy Award, beautiful wife, beautiful kids, beautiful family structure, speaks Italian, speaks English, speaks Spanish, brilliant guy, wealthy. Who would love to trade places? What happens with the hands in the room?
Every hand goes up.
They all fly up, right?
Yeah.
But then you ask it a different way. And you ask the folks, who wants to wake up at 4:30 every morning without fail, show up to the gym at 5, that's not mandatory, and it's your gym work / practice before the practice. Raise your hand. Without mentioning Kobe Bryant, what happens to the hands? They don't go up. So I think the lesson that we should talk about more and more is, listen, it takes quite often it takes more than you can even begin to fathom. If Kobe Bryant had to do that, if LeBron still has to do that, if MJ had to do that, why not you? And if you have the guts to say, oh yeah, these guys are my heroes, and you're wearing their jerseys and you have their posters, or you follow them on social media, don't be a hypocrite. Like, be willing to do the work that they did to get the accolades that they got.
Yep.
Right? You can't live uphill with downhill habits.
Yep.
Like, stop saying that you're a beast and you're not willing to do what beasts do.
Yeah.
Like, you have a tattoo of a lion on your chest or your forearms and you're not freaking lion.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here. Yeah. I think that needs to be talked about it more. Let's celebrate the sweat. Let's celebrate how gritty you need to be and how much you need to sweat it out to be able to, get the rewards that you're truly seeking to get. And so you can be a dog in the industry.
I love that.
That's what I think we should talk about more.
Yeah. And one more on Vivint, because I want to talk about what you've been doing since then as well. Let's talk about longevity a little bit. How do you continue to stay dialed for
process
13 years of the same stuff?
Exactly. You fall in love with the process. Yeah. And I've been talking about this a lot lately. And I use the comparison of the meme of the guy with the pickaxe, hacking into the soil to get the diamonds. And the meme is the dude flustered, turning around.
Yep.
And then you see that the diamonds were just a couple more pickaxes away from him getting the diamond.
Right.
So the lesson for me is that guy in that meme, the diamond hunter, fell in love with the result more so than he did the process.
Right.
If he would have just continued to dig and to use the pickaxe, he would have gotten the reward. He would have gotten the result. It's just like the law of the harvest, right?
Yep.
The day you plant the seeds, not the day you eat the fruit. Like, you gotta allow the law of the harvest to take effect. You reap what you sow.
Yep.
So you got to be patient. I say this all the time. The twin killers of success are impatience and greed. So you got to fall in love with the process. I mean, for me, when I was knocking, I did 4 summers total, and then I graduated to regional. They forced me off the doors, by the way. I didn't want to get off the doors.
Right.
My team was like, Mendez, we do recruiting meetings, and we bring them to you, and then they all want to join your team. So please go regional so that there's not a team that you're running.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if I go regional, you guys better backfill me with the commissions that I'm going to be missing out on my personal accounts. And they all said, we got you, and they did.
Yeah.
But you just fall in love with the process. Fall in love with the doors, fall in love with the heat, enjoy it. Just know that you're going to have a crap sandwich here and there. Just savor that thing.
Yeah.
And just the results will come. If you go long enough, you will be able to benefit from the law of the harvest. And even there's a few decisions that I made even lately, and they're not big decisions, just switching on a couple things where I was like, oh, maybe I should pivot. And I look back and I'm like, if I would have just continued that much more, that would have unlocked, that would have unleashed.
Right.
And that's going to be the answer there. It's, you got to fall in love with the process. You got to fall in love with the boring.
Yeah.
You got to fall in love with the mundane. Like, again, people don't want to, let's go back to the NBA. You don't want to practice layups. You don't want to practice the free throw. You don't want to go to the gym and work hard. Like, that's just boring. It's mundane. It's painful. It's like, oh my gosh, this sucks. But that's how you get there. That's how you win. So I fell in love with the boring.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all. I think the way I say it to my guys sometimes is, who climbs highest, the guy who wants to reach the peak or the guy who loves climbing?
Yeah.
The guy who loves climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the consistency, it's the grit, it's the grind, it's the process. It's the process, it's the process, it's the process.
Yeah.
Fall in love with the process. The result will occur by design. But you have to, the process, the systems.
Yeah.
I talk about it all the time, and I'll say this, that it helps the viewers and listeners, is you got to build systems that help you elevate. If you have sophisticated systems, sophisticated results, lackluster systems, lackluster results, same thing. Good processes, good results, great processes, great results. You rise and fall to the level of your systems, not to the level of your goals. Goals are just ideas. Goals without systems are nothing. So I was very system-driven, very process-driven.
Love it. And again, just to bring this back up, closing in on 10,000
Yep.
doors?
Yep.
Okay. So
With the current pipeline.
Yeah, with the current pipeline. So I've been doing big stuff in real estate and other private equity stuff since you stopped actively working at Vivint 5-6 years ago. I guess what lessons would you give to people still actively doing door to door that we don't have the luxury of learning like you have?
Yeah,
recently?
no, listen, I would, when you want to talk about wealth creation, et cetera, wealth preservation, is you got to be disciplined. And again, you got to follow the process, follow the system. You make a lot of active income in this job,
Right.
Or at least you can.
Yeah.
And there's an expiration date for all of us, right? There was for me. I was, call it 44 when I expired from the industry actively.
Yeah.
But what I was doing early on, I was buying cash flow. I was buying quote unquote passive income. So that the day that I decided to be done actively, meaning stop being a dancing bear, when you're a dancing bear, you only collect money when you're on stage dancing.
Yep.
When you're on the doors, you're a dancing bear. You can only eat what you kill. But you have to create passive income. So I wanted to knock doors so I could buy doors. So now every single month I have cash flow coming in from the investments that I've made over the last few years. And I've chosen real estate because it has a lot of benefits. And I always list 12, and on another show I can go over all 12. But just to summarize a few of them: cash flow, appreciation, depreciation, You have asymmetrical risk reward, meaning I protect my downside, I have really good upside. And then it has a really good, awesome compound effect. You know, real estate usually doubles over a 5-6 year run. So if you can just, you know, stay consistent with it, it's a beautiful thing to do. Cash flow, it's the holy grail of all business. If you have cash flow, you can withstand all the storms. When you don't have cash flow and you only have what people call profit, it's tough to make payroll. It's tough to pay your accounts payable. So I love buying cash flow, and I love harvesting cash flow, and I love having that passive income so that I can have freedom of choice, freedom of mobility, freedom of time. Because one day you're not going to want to actively keep doing what you're doing, which is fine. But you can say no to those things much easier if you pay the price with investing. You can become rich at this job. You can't become wealthy. You have to invest to become wealthy. You can be rich, but not wealthy. Wealthy you get by investing, and you get good at investing by studying and by doing it. I say this all the time too. There's no such thing as a good investment, only good investors. So you have to know exactly what you're doing. You can't just leave it up to some financial advisor that, no offense, quite often doesn't have even the same income that you have. And I can get into that later too. But just pay the price. Get educated, invest, know what asset classes make sense for you and your balance sheet and where you are in life. But if you just buy cash flow and focus on that, you will be in a really good spot. The other thing, lifestyle inflation is, you know, if you're wearing that Gucci or that Rolex or whatever, it doesn't really tell me how much you make. It just tells me how much you spent. So I'd rather know, what does your cash flow look like? What does your balance sheet look like? What do your S Corps, LLCs, C Corps look like? All that stuff.
Yep.
Avoid the lifestyle inflation. Sometimes guys will go from making 100 grand to 200 grand, and they're at that same level of expenses because all they did is inflate their lifestyle. Like, don't do that. Live like a pauper so one day you can live like a king.
Yep. Love it. Well, as we kind of wrap up, Jeff, if our listeners want to catch up with you, is there any particular place that they should do it? Instagram or?
Instagram's the best. I know I'm on TikTok, but I haven't logged on a single time, but my team puts me on there.
Yeah.
But Instagram, YouTube, we can probably add a link here.
Yep. What's the Instagram handle at?
I think it's Jeffrey Mendez Poppy or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'll find you.
What's funny is before I did all this, my Instagram was private and everything. It's a whole new world for me.
Yeah.
So I think I've had it open for the last year or so.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting.
I always love those Instagrams. There's like a year of, you know, pretty solid like content posts, and then down below that there's 3 family pictures over 5 years. You know?
Yeah, if you dig down on mine, you'll notice when I opened it up and
right
when it was private. Yeah, but
That's
you can
fun.
reach me there. Our website, you can look up Studio 168 Real Estate. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, pleasure. This has been fun.
Thanks. That's another episode of D2D Success Stories. Tune in next week. We drop every Tuesday. We're on all major platforms.